They called Marcus Marshmallow because he couldn't run a lap without gasping for air, the echo of jeers filling the silent gym. Those same classmates now watch him on national television every Sunday. This is the story of a boy who struggled to catch a ball and became a professional athlete. His journey was neither quick nor easy. It involved thousands of pre-dawn workouts and countless moments of doubt that nearly broke him. Through relentless effort, Marcus grew from ridicule to recognition, proving that determination can transform even the most unlikely candidate into a success story. The gymnasium smelled of sweat and rubber mats when Marcus took his usual position at the back of the class. Most bullies settled for insults about his noodle arms or how he ran like his shoes were filled with cement. But that Tuesday, they escalated. A strategically placed foot sent him sprawling during warm-up laps, his knees hitting hardwood before his hands could react. The video spread before lunch ended. Marcus's flailing attempt to break his fall, the startled yelp caught mid-breath, the way his gym shirt rode up to expose pale skin over ribs. By third period, even the teachers chuckled when someone replayed it in the hallway, calling it harmless fun. Marcus spent that evening at the kitchen sink, scrubbing grass stains from his only decent jeans. The fabric frayed under his fingernails as he worked, the green smears fading to faint shadows. His breathing came in shallow bursts, though he hadn't moved from the sink. Research shows 87% of bullied students develop physical symptoms. For Marcus, it manifested as stress-induced asthma that tightened his chest whenever someone whispered within earshot. His mother found him later in the bathroom, forehead pressed to the medicine cabinet's cracked mirror. The fractures split his reflection into jagged pieces, one eye here, a sliver of mouth there. She didn't ask about the tear tracks. They both knew the school's indifference cut deeper than the fall itself. The breaking point came during Friday's PE lesson. A football arced toward Marcus in what should have been an easy catch. The ball bounced off his fingertips as if repelled, drawing groans from his team. The coach pulled him aside afterward, not unkindly. "Maybe stick to chess club," he suggested, patting Marcus's shoulder like he was delivering good advice. What no one witnessed was Marcus returning to his desk, gripping the particle board edge until his knuckles bleached white. His nails carved half-moons into the cheap laminate, tiny grooves that would remain long after he graduated. That night, he lay awake, tracing the bruises on his knees, replaying every laugh, every shared glance between bullies and bystanders. The humiliation crystallized into something sharper, a resolve that burned away the shame. As Marcus scrubbed the stains, he thought about how each mark seemed to echo the taunts he heard daily. The stains faded, but the words lingered, etched into his mind. He wondered if he could ever wash away the feeling of being less than, of being the punchline to a joke he never understood. The thought lingered, a quiet whisper of defiance against the tide of humiliation. The days blurred together, each one a repeat of the last. Marcus moved through them like a ghost, present but unseen. The laughter, the whispers, the pointed fingers, they all became a background hum, a constant reminder of his place in the school's hierarchy. Yet beneath the surface, something was shifting. The resolve that had sparked in him began to grow, fueled by each slight, each dismissive glance. By the time Friday's PE lesson arrived, Marcus felt the weight of the week pressing down on him. The football incident was just another layer of embarrassment, another moment to endure. But as he sat at his desk afterward, the resolve within him solidified. He realized that the laughter and the jokes were just noise, distractions from the truth he was beginning to see. He was more than their taunts, more than the clumsy falls and missed catches. That night, as he lay in bed, Marcus traced the bruises on his knees, each one a testament to the week's trials. But instead of feeling defeated, he felt a flicker of determination. The bruises would heal, the laughter would fade, but the strength he was discovering within himself would remain. It was a quiet strength, one that didn't need to be shouted from the rooftops but was felt in the steady beat of his heart, in the calmness of his breath. Marcus knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The bullies wouldn't disappear overnight, and the whispers wouldn't suddenly stop. But he also knew that he was no longer the same boy who had fallen in the gym. He was someone who had faced humiliation and found a way to rise above it, someone who was learning to stand tall despite the odds. And that, he realized, was a victory in itself. The basement smelled of damp concrete and old laundry when Marcus began his first 5 a.m. workout. He'd spent 6 weeks delivering newspapers to save for the second-hand treadmill that now dominated the space. The machine shuddered under his feet at anything above walking pace, its belt emitting a relentless, high-pitched whine like a metronome driving his determination. But it was his. His inaugural session ended with Marcus bent over the utility sink, vomiting breakfast into the rust-stained basin. His legs refused to hold weight afterward. They trembled like a fawn's first steps, muscles firing in erratic bursts. Neuroscience suggests it takes 21 days to form a habit, but Marcus's spiral-bound notebook documented 63 consecutive days before his body stopped treating exercise as a threat. The early pages showed smeared ink where sweat dripped from his nose during planks. He papered the exposed pipes with motivational quotes torn from magazines. "Believe in yourself," declared one in cheerful yellow font. Marcus took a black marker and slashed through it, writing, "Prove them wrong," beneath in jagged capitals, as if forging a weapon out of his pain. The words echoed with each rep, syncopated with the treadmill's irregular thumping. Winter transformed the basement into a refrigerated torture chamber. Frost etched intricate patterns on the single basement window, as Marcus's breath condensed in white puffs between push-ups. His fingertips turned waxy and numb around the dumbbell handles, the cold metal biting into his skin. Research would later confirm what Marcus discovered through suffering. Cold exposure increases endurance by forcing the lungs to work harder. Every gasp in that frozen air strengthened diaphragm muscles that would later give him an edge on the field. The breakthrough came on a March morning. Marcus's sneakers pounded the treadmill belt as the odometer ticked upward. 0.8 miles, 0.9, then the magical 1.0. He didn't stop immediately. Letting the numbers climb to 1.2, he finally hit the emergency stop, his shoes leaving dark sweat prints on the fraying rubber. The achievement felt anticlimactic without witnesses. No one saw him press his forehead against the cinder-block wall, shoulders shaking with something between laughter and tears. School that day played out like a poorly dubbed film. Marcus's hand still trembled too violently to work his locker combination. He had to ask the janitor for help, the older man's calloused fingers spinning the dial with ease. The same bullies passed in the hallway, but their taunts about marshmallow arms landed differently now. Marcus flexed his hand under the desk, feeling new ridges of muscle where softness used to be. The basement workouts had become a crucible, refining Marcus's resolve and reshaping his body. Each session was a battle against the cold, the fatigue, and the relentless whine of the treadmill. Yet with every step he was forging a new identity, one rep at a time. The transformation was not just physical, it was a testament to his unyielding spirit. The basement, once a place of dampness and solitude, had become a sanctuary where Marcus could confront his limitations and emerge stronger. As the days turned into weeks, the basement's harsh conditions became a backdrop to Marcus's growing strength. The frost on the window, the biting cold of the dumbbells, and the rhythmic pounding of his feet on the treadmill were all part of a symphony of perseverance. Marcus's journey was not just about building muscle. It was about proving to himself that he could overcome any obstacle. The motivational quotes on the walls, once mere words, had become a mantra that fueled his determination. Marcus's story is a reminder that true strength is forged in adversity. The basement workouts were more than just a physical challenge, they were a test of character. Each morning, as he faced the cold and the solitude, Marcus was not just training his body, he was training his mind to endure, to push beyond the limits, and to prove that he was capable of greatness. The journey was long and arduous, but with each step, Marcus was writing a new chapter in his life, one that was defined by resilience and unwavering determination. Coach Alvarez first noticed Marcus through the fogged glass of the weight room door. Known for his no-nonsense approach and a history of turning underdogs into contenders, Alvarez ran an unofficial training program for kids the system had written off. His rules were simple: show up on time, follow instructions, and never quit mid-set. Marcus had been loitering outside for 3 consecutive mornings, his breath leaving condensation circles on the window as he watched the athletes inside. When Marcus finally worked up the courage to enter, Alvarez barely glanced up from his clipboard. The initial assessment was rough. Marcus collapsed during the first round of warm-up sprints, his legs locking with cramps that left him writhing on the artificial turf. Alvarez tossed him a water bottle without breaking stride, initially slotting Marcus into the washout category. He'd seen hundreds like him, kids who thought wanting it badly enough could substitute for physical readiness. Yet there was a flicker of something in Marcus's eyes that Alvarez couldn't quite dismiss. When the final whistle blew at 9 p.m., Alvarez assumed that was the last he'd see of the scrawny kid with the asthma inhaler. What changed his mind was the security guard's call at 11:17 p.m. The janitor had found a lone figure walking laps under the stadium lights. Alvarez drove back to school and found Marcus shuffling along the outermost lane, his sneakers leaving uneven tracks in the dew-slick grass. The boy's shirt was soaked through, clinging to shoulders that shook with exhaustion. When Alvarez asked why he was still there, Marcus just pointed at the scoreboard clock. "You said we had to complete 40 laps. I'm on 32. In that moment, Marcus realized that his determination was his greatest asset, a realization that sparked a new resolve. Studies indicate mentorship increases athletic success rates by 300%. Alvarez became the architect of Marcus's raw determination, transforming blind effort into precision. Their first breakthrough came during a throwing drill. Alvarez adjusted Marcus's grip by 2 centimeters, index finger here, thumb there, and the football suddenly flew 30 yards farther. The ball left Marcus's hand with a clean spiral that neither of them had thought possible. That night, Marcus wrote in his notebook until the pen ran dry, documenting every tweak Alvarez had made. The coach's most valuable lessons weren't about physical technique. "They'll call you obsessed because they don't understand dedication," Alvarez said during one pre-dawn session. Marcus scratched the phrase into his notebook's margin, underlining it 3 times. The words became a mantra when former bullies whispered about his new routine, when teachers questioned his slipping grades in everything except phys ed. Alvarez arranged Marcus's first real competition, a regional showcase where college scouts sometimes lurked in the stands. The same kids who'd filmed Marcus's humiliation years earlier would now watch him from the opposing bench. Alvarez's reputation as a mentor was built on moments like these, where he saw potential others overlooked. Marcus's journey was a testament to the power of perseverance and guidance. The transformation from a struggling kid to a promising athlete was not just about physical prowess, but about the mental fortitude that Alvarez instilled in him. As Marcus stood on the field, ready for his first real competition, he knew that every lap, every note, and every early morning had led to this moment. The journey was far from over, but with Alvarez's mentorship, Marcus was ready to face whatever came next. The tournament was supposed to mark Marcus's arrival. Instead, it nearly ended everything. During the second quarter, he planted his left foot to pivot, a routine move he'd practiced thousands of times. The pop came first, a sickening crackle like someone snapping green wood. Pain followed a half-second later, radiating up his leg in electric waves. He collapsed mid-play, fingers clawing at his knee as if he could physically hold the joint together. The stadium noise faded to a dull roar as trainers rushed onto the field. Doctors explained the ACL tear using a plastic model pointing at the shredded ligament diagram and Marcus's MRI showing similar damage. Recovery would take 9 to 12 months, meaning he'd miss recruitment season and his chance at a college scholarship. Back at school, whispers followed him. "Marshmallow should have stayed in chess club," someone muttered near his locker. A cafeteria table erupted in laughter when another kid mimicked his stumble. The injury became proof to them that Marcus had overreached. Financially, the injury was catastrophic. Physical therapy cost $175 per session, more than his mother cleared in a day at the hospital cafeteria. They sold the Toyota she'd just finished paying off, the one with the new tire smell still lingering inside. Marcus watched from the porch as the buyer drove it away, the taillights disappearing around the corner. That night, he found his mother at the kitchen table with bills spread before her, rubbing her temples in slow circles. He started to apologize, but she cut him off. "We'll manage," she said, sliding an insurance form across the table. Her signature looked shaky, like she'd signed it without her glasses. Marcus felt the weight of expectations and the fear of failure pressing down on him. His journal from that period reveals he nearly became part of the 72% of young athletes who quit after major injuries. An entry dated 2 weeks post-surgery reads, "Maybe this is the universe telling me to stop pretending." The pages warped in places, water damage or sweat. It's impossible to tell. What changed was Alvarez showing up unannounced one morning with a stolen key to the school gym. He'd designed a workout focusing solely on upper body, exercises that wouldn't aggravate the healing knee. At first, Marcus protested, "What's the point if I can't run?" Alvarez just loaded the barbell and said, "You will." The upper body sessions became brutal marathons. Marcus's arms ballooned with new muscle, veins rising to the surface like submerged ropes. By week 6, he could bench press more than Alvarez's varsity linebackers. The transformation startled even his mentor. "Jesus, kid," Alvarez muttered during one session, watching Marcus dead hang from the pull-up bar for 90 seconds. But the real test came when they attempted his first post-injury run. The track was empty at 5 a.m., dew glittering under the floodlights. Marcus made it 12 steps before his knee buckled. He tried again, managing 20 steps this time before collapsing. The third attempt ended with him crawling to the infield grass, fists full of turf as sobs racked his body. Alvarez stood back, letting it happen. When Marcus finally quieted, the coach tossed him a water bottle. "Tomorrow we try again," he said. No pep talk, no false encouragement. Just the unspoken understanding that this was the work. Progress came in increments almost too small to measure. First a full lap walking, then jogging the straighter ways, eventually a single mile at half his former speed. Marcus learned to celebrate the microscopic victories, a 1% increase in range of motion, 5 extra seconds balancing on the wobble board. The injury forced him to develop patience, to understand that rebuilding something is harder than building it the first time. Marcus spent his recovery time studying game footage with the intensity of a graduate student preparing for thesis defense. While other athletes lifted weights, he dissected plays frame by frame on a second-hand laptop, pausing to sketch formations in a spiral notebook. The pages filled with precise diagrams, arrows showing a receiver's favored cuts, circles around linebackers' blind spots. His handwriting cramped into the margins, noting details like how a certain quarterback licked his fingers before audible calls. Coaches rolled their eyes when Marcus mentioned his research. "Film won't make you faster," one said, tossing a towel at him during practice. That changed during preseason scrimmages. Marcus began calling out opponents' plays before the snap, his voice cutting through the huddle. "Screen left to the 22nd, he'd say, or post route with a delayed blitz. Teammates initially dismissed it as luck until he predicted 7 consecutive plays correctly. Cognitive research confirms elite athletes process visual cues 0.3 seconds faster than average players. Marcus's injury downtime had honed this like a scalpel. What looked like hesitation to outsiders was actually pattern recognition at work. He saw the game in layers, anticipating moves like someone reading a familiar book aloud. The breathing technique came from an unexpected source. His mother left yoga videos playing to drown out neighborhood noise, the instructor's voice droning about pranic energy. Marcus scoffed at first, but during rehab he tried the 4-count inhale, 7-count hold technique to manage pain. The effect was immediate. His heart rate dropped 12 beats per minute during high-pressure drills. He adapted it into a pre-snap ritual. 3 controlled breaths through the nose, exhaling through pursed lips. Team physiologists clocked his reaction time at 12% faster when using this method, though their reports called it anomalous. Scouts noticed the difference before anyone else. At a regional combine, Marcus moved through drills with unsettling precision. Where others relied on brute speed, he took efficient angles, his cuts sharpened by months analyzing optimal trajectories. One evaluator's notes read, "Sees the field like a 10-year veteran." They didn't see the kid who'd been tripped in gym class. They saw a player who'd turned over, thinking into weaponized anticipation. His vertical jump measured average, his 40-yard dash time unremarkable. But in game simulations, Marcus consistently appeared where the ball was headed before anyone else reacted. The notebook became his trademark. Teammates ribbed him about its contents until he let them peek inside. Page after page documented tendencies most players never noticed. How a rival cornerback adjusted his gloves before press coverage, the way a star receiver's left foot turned slightly outward on the slant routes. Marcus had catalogued these details during long bus rides, scribbling under the dim overhead lights while others slept. Coaches eventually demanded copies, his observations rewriting their playbooks. What began as a coping mechanism during injury became the foundation of his play style. Alvarez was the first to recognize how Marcus's greatest liability, his tendency to hyper-analyze, had become an asset. "You see the Matrix?" he joked during film review, pointing at Marcus's notes predicting a trick play. The real test came during a televised game against state champions. Marcus spotted a tell in the quarterback's stance, a barely perceptible weight shift before deep throws. He baited the pass, intercepting it for a touchdown that sealed the win. Post-game reporters asked how he'd known. Marcus just tapped his temple, the gesture sparking 1,000 forum debates about football IQ. Professional scouts started attending his games, their binoculars following him even during downtime. They noted how he adjusted routes based on safety positioning, something usually seen only in veteran players. One team's analytics department created a model based on his prediction success rate. It correlated strongly with wins. The combine numbers still didn't dazzle, but general managers cared more about the stat sheet: 11 interceptions, 83% route recognition accuracy. When his draft announcement came, analysts called him the most prepared rookie in the league. The voice cut through the stadium noise like a blade through paper. "Hey, Marshmallow!" Marcus didn't need to turn to recognize it, the same nasal tone that had echoed through high school hallways. His former tormentor now wore a rival team's jersey, leaning against their bench with crossed arms. The smirk was familiar too, the one that used to precede a shove into lockers, now directed at Marcus's professional uniform, the stitched name on his back. The game started badly. A simple slant pass hit Marcus's hands and bounced away as if greased, reminiscent of the football he'd dropped years ago in gym class. The opposing bench erupted in laughter, their star player, his old bully, clapping slow, sarcastic applause. Statistics confirm 68% of athletes underperform when facing past tormentors. Marcus's first-half stats reflected this: 2 dropped passes, a missed block, 0 receptions. Each mistake felt heavier, the weight of old humiliations pressing down. Halftime brought a turning point. As Marcus trudged toward the locker room, he spotted Alvarez in the stands. The coach wasn't supposed to be there. He'd had knee surgery the week prior. Yet there he stood in section 214, leaning on crutches. He made their old signal, 2 fingers tapped to the temple, then pointed at Marcus. It was like a beacon in the fog, a reminder to think, not react. Marcus returned for the second half with his notebook playing in his mind. He noticed things others missed, the way his opponent licked his lips before blitzing, how the safety always took a false step left on play action. These were the details he'd catalogued during injury rehab, the patterns that separated observers from participants. He adjusted his routes by half steps, exploiting gaps the defense didn't realize they'd left open. The defining moment came with 2:17 left in the fourth quarter. His team trailed by 4 when the opposing quarterback, Marcus's old bully, took the snap. Marcus recognized the play instantly, a post-corner combo they'd run twice before. He saw the quarterback's eyes flick toward his primary target, noticed the slight weight shift onto his back foot. Marcus broke coverage a half-second before the throw, his interception sealing the game-winning touchdown. As Marcus crossed the goal line, the stadium noise faded. In that suspended moment, he saw the sequence play out like one of his notebook diagrams. The ball's arc, the angle of his cut, the way his cleats bit into the end-zone turf. It was more than just a physical victory. It was a culmination of every early morning workout, every note taken, every moment of doubt overcome. His teammates mobbed him, but his eyes stayed locked on the opposing bench. The smirk was gone now, replaced by something raw and unguarded. Reporters swarmed afterward, microphones thrust toward his face. They asked about his quiet intensity, the way he'd seemed to know where the ball was going before anyone else. Marcus wiped sweat from his brow and gave the shortest answer of his career. Some people need reminding. Reflecting on the game, Marcus realized it wasn't just about proving something to his old bully. It was about proving something to himself. The journey from the locker room to the field had been more than a physical walk. It was a mental shift, a reclaiming of confidence that had been chipped away over the years. The victory was not just in the score, but in the knowledge that he had faced his past and emerged stronger. Marcus's story exposes a hard truth. The seeds of greatness often grow in the soil of others' cruelty. His journey forces a question. What could you build from the pain meant to break you? The basement workouts, the torn ACL, the notebooks filled under dim bus lights, these were acts of defiance against every laugh, every dismissive stick to chess club. The boy called Marshmallow now outruns defenders on national television. His 83-yard receiving average is proof that wounds can become fuel. Marcus's defiance leaves us to ponder our own journeys and how determination can transform pain into success.